Hi, my name is Evan. This is going to be a home practice sequence from the Katonah yoga material. This video is not a class, it's more designed as an instruction manual or a reminder for people who I have worked with individually and are working on their home practice at home. One thing about home practice, if you're seeing this, that I would love to tell you, that it is not just a practice you do at home, but it is a practice to go inside of yourself. So our idea of a home practice is the same sequence at the same time of day. This is the ideal. On the same mat with the same smells so that you put yourself on a grid and that the only thing that is changing that you watch through time is you. So where we start is in a pigeon. You can start yourself in a dog with a wave behind your knees, a big 60-degree triangle, and then bring your right leg forward first. If your hips don't come to the ground, which mine don't, prop them up on blankets or a rolled up towel or something under the center of your perineum so that your hips are plugged in. It doesn't matter how far your right foot is forward. It doesn't have to be at 90 degrees. We're focused on the hips. The blankets give me a reference that my east and west butt bones, left and right, are organized across from each other at a polarity, and then my tailbone is going back and my pubic bone is going forward, so that when you come down, also don't just plop yourself down, you want to use how you're plugged in and change the contact so that when you go forward, there's also a piece of you moving behind you. So you'll fold yourself down at center. In a home practice, I like to start with giving yourself a grid of breath, so it doesn't have to be how you feel today or how you don't feel today or a guess or a wish or a hope. So say you do 5 breaths at center. After your 5 breaths, slow and low down into your lower part of your body. All the sympathetic tissue of the lungs is up top. The parasympathetic nervous system in the lungs sits now down near the diaphragm. So you want to bring your breath slow and low. To go around the joint space, once you can be in pigeon, you'll start by walking over towards the right. You put your chest on your thigh, or you can always put yourself underneath a block. Say we did 5 breaths on that side, and then you'll walk yourself to the other side. Another option, once you're there and you can go side to side, is to spin it so that my tail, my right shoulder, and my head are on the same line. I'm not putting my right shoulder to the right, I'm not putting it to the left. Between left and right is the center. A spin. And then the next place to go, because one pose will give birth to the other, is to move it. Really notice how I move it from the back foot first, so that you're a wave that starts from the bottom to the top. So my heel goes in, my tail goes towards the fireplace, my head goes towards the camera. This is a fold. This is where you take an inhale. This is a seed. And then the first thing to move is my back heel, which brings my tail back to 12, straight behind me, and my head straight in front of me. And that's where the spin is. So the spin is always at center. So an inhale with my back foot moving in, my heel drops, my butt goes towards the fireplace, my head folds, there's an inhale here. And then the first thing to move is my back foot, which brings my hips and my tail back to center. And center is where the spin is. The exhale is the big expression. And then you can come up and add a fold. So my left hand goes in front, my right hand goes behind. The lower you take your hand, the deeper the back bend starts. You want to think that your hips are east and west so that no hip is coming off. And then the back foot is really what moves you around, so that there is a Tai Chi from the top of my head down through my perineum that I'm spinning around. And then that spin comes from the bottom through the top. If you add the breath, the fold, the seed is the inhale, and then the exhale is the expression. And then if you want to make it a full sphere, you can make a little basket with your hands and your foot meets your hands. Your job is to drop down into your pelvis so that you can organize a fold in your right hip, a back bend from your pubic bone, belly button, sternum through the top of your head. And then your back leg comes around to a double pigeon. I'm going to turn towards you so you can see it. Double pigeon, if you're sitting back on your tail, this knee is never going to go down. It's the rotation of your pelvis that starts to bring this knee towards the bottom foot. If that isn't happening, prop yourself up higher and higher so that you get an angle downhill. When you measure yourself out, you can think that the ball of this knee would fit the pocket of this arch. The ball of this knee will fit this arch. So if your foot is too far in, you look down and there's no geometry of a triangle here. So as you're here longer and longer, you can start to organize detail or refine your form. So that really when you get your foot all the way outside, like it could stand on a block or a wall here, same with this one, you look down and there will be a 60-degree triangle because you're measured in the canon of proportion. And then as you go forward, really think a piece of you, and you can even use your feet to wiggle your tail back. A piece of you is moving back to come forward. So you can fold yourself in, give yourself a breath count at center. You can stay at center, you can walk over towards the top knee, fit your chin around your knee, or you can bring your elbow to the floor and you can move it. So that I'm using my feet, my hips go towards the way I'm facing, towards the left, towards my elbow to open it, and my hips, it's pretty slight, go over towards the right to close it. Here's an inhale, here's an exhale. Here's an inhale, here's an exhale. Then you can walk to the other side. If that's a lot, you can always put your head on a couple blocks. Or you can stay up and you can move it around this way. But eventually you want it to move. If you sit in it too long, you're just going to go deeper into the places that are already available to you, and you're going to avoid the places that aren't so available. So when you put yourself on a grid of either side to side, or here I'm just spinning around, right hip bone, tailbone, left butt bone, pubic bone, then eventually I have to go everywhere. And then the places where you don't go are going to call out a new piece of yourself. The places where you go too much are going to ask you to look somewhere else. So you can also spin it on this side. Here's my inhale. Here's the exhale. Inhale. Exhale. And then you unfold it like origami. So everything is measured like origami, where the corners meet, where the folds are clean, so that we're moving in joint space. So that our final little fold here only really works by all the previous folds that we did. So you fold your origami up, and then you unfold it so you can make something new. So your top leg will swing around. You can always go back to a pigeon here. You can fold yourself up to a down dog. It's not a push of the arms. I'm using my back foot into the floor so that something goes down to send the fold of your hips up. You can plug yourself in so that any extra currency gets grounded. 4 points, stable and strong. And then your left foot forward towards a pigeon. One way to come into a pigeon is to measure yourself into a lunge where your armpit fits your knee, where there's no angle from knee, perineum to opposite knee. You can see a triangle in this negative space. And then as I walk my left foot towards the right, this butt bone comes away from it. So my foot is going towards the right, and I think this left butt bone is going in the opposite direction, which will really put you on the center of your hips. And then to get into it, just like our fold before, you'll move back. Sometimes you'll have to move your blankets back. And that will really put you in the fold of your hip and plug you in on your perineum. So that when you come down, a piece of you is still moving behind you. If you tend to hold yourself up with your elbows, your back is going to be sore. This is your ground of doing up here. You're really not in your ground of being quite yet. And you'll notice your breath won't go low into your hips. So one way to do that is to either really walk your hands out or to put something underneath your chest or your armpits is really nice, because then you're a frame, shoulder, shoulder, hip to hip. Then give yourself a breath count. Then the first place to walk is over towards the top knee. If you want to spin it, your shoulder will come down. And then you'll use, this one you can really see my hips. My hips go towards the fireplace and it's a fold, it's an inhale. And then my hips, I'm using my back knee, my shin, everything on the floor over towards the right to move my hips towards the left. And then there's a back bend from pubic bone, belly button, sternum. So I'm not throwing my head back, I'm spinning on the center, the spit, from tail to head. So this is the inhale of fold, hips to the right. You can think your hips go towards the left as you spin yourself open. You can walk over towards the other side. You can just stay with your chest down or on a block, or you can spin it on this side. So when my hips go towards the camera, it's a fold, my heel goes in back here, and then my heel moving up is the launching rudder to spin me open. So that this is the inhale. This is the exhale. Breath slow and low. Then you can come up and add a fold. Right hand in front, left hand behind. The lower you take your hand, the lower your back bend's gonna start. If my hips go towards the fireplace, it closes me. There's an inhale. And then I use my back leg into my hand like a ball moving into the mid of my palm to spin myself around. Your hips are east and west. Your pubic bone is forward, tailbone is back. And then if you come up to your heart, half of yourself from your heart out your right fingertips, half out your left fingertips. Then you can bring both legs around. Drop yourself down into your pelvis. Think that both hips are plugged in, so you can send a back bend as your foot moves into your palm. And then your back leg comes around double pigeon. Find your measure. You can stay up. If you have your hands on something, put them right outside of your hips so that you have to take a tip forward, a trajectory forward, so that there's a wave of your low back, there's a wave of your neck that brings your antenna towards the sky. And then you can move it around it here. If you went right, go left. Or you can come down as your tail moves back. You can go over to one side or spin it like you did on the other one. Give yourself a breath count on each side so that it's measured, much like a metronome. You measure yourself out in a practice so that your nervous system has to route in a really specific way. You're building new myelin sheath. And then bring your breath down into your pelvis with your imagination. So you can think your left knee away from your right butt like a diagonal. Your right knee moves away from the opposite as another diagonal. And then you have this X marks the spot right in your pelvis, which gives you the center. And then you can unfold yourself again. A pigeon. My back foot is what lifts me up rather than a push to fold me into my down dog. And then we'll come into a Gomukhasana. My right leg is in front for this first one. Gomukhasana is very challenging. You can always stay the knee in the pocket of the front knee. So knee, a ball, into the back knee, a mitt. You can move it around here. And then over time, it'll open up the space of your sacrum because as your knees go to center, You have to find the width. As something moves in, something should move out. So that's the width of your sacrum. And then eventually you can sit yourself back, either on blankets or on the floor if your knees really go down. If your knees are much higher than you, lift your butt so you can, again, find that downward facing slope that moves you forward. As you go forward, you can move yourself back, fold yourself in, your chin over your top armpit, your chin over your knee, and then you can move it to one side so that your elbow comes to the floor, your knee might fit your armpit. And then again, my hips towards the fireplace, my hips towards the camera. Hips towards the fireplace is an inhale, hips towards the camera is the exhale. And then you can do both sides. If your feet fold in, you can even unfold. So here's a fold. My feet were out and now they move in so that the comes to the top of my foot, my heel goes towards the sky. And then that place I was folding in my hips, beneath your belly button, down at the lowest part of yourself, is where you unfold it. And I'm not going to use my hands here, so I can really just use my hips. So this would be the inhale, and then this would be the exhale. Lower, lower, and lower, and lower is the piece that comes forward. So you don't want to sit your hips back because there's a fold here. We're going for a hemisphere so that the pubic bone forward eventually will be the furthest part in front of you. So you almost think it goes past your knees. And then the head comes back last. If the head is back first, the hips won't move anymore. So the hips come forward first, and then the head is the top of the width. You can either just switch your legs, or you can tuck your toes. This is a way to stay in your hips. Spin yourself around. You can only spin one way. You can always pause at center. Spin yourself around. Gomukhasana on the other side. Again, if it's very challenging, just start to fit your knee in the pocket of your front. And the more you make contact of that knee coming up to meet the mitt, the ball always comes towards the mitt, the more contact you make will soothe any gripping you have in your sacrum over time. Everything happens in time. And that's why we put ourselves on a grid, as a way to ritualize time. Otherwise, it'll just flow by. You can't manage time. Time flows. It's like trying to grasp for water in a river. Your job is to organize it so that you can experience time in the way that is most beneficial towards you. One way to do that is to put yourself on a grid, just like a calendar. A calendar is a grid. So you get to choose which grid you follow. And then when you stay with it through time, so you can stay in your circles, or if you folded it down, Gomukhasana on the other side. Eventually your feet walk up so that you can really use your feet to find the polarity of their butt bone. So that this foot, it's on the left, over here, is away from my right butt bone over here. This foot by the fireplace is away from this left butt bone. And that eventually is what spins me around. You can even do the spin up, or you can fold yourself in. And then you can unfold it. So say you gave yourself a breath count, with whatever you're doing, put yourself on that metronome, that grid. You can fold and unfold it. So your back bend, you have to think, is the lowest piece of yourself. Your knees moving forward, your pubic bone moving forward, your belly button moving forward, your sternum. Even your throat starts to move forward, like your collarbones. Okay, and then you unfold this. I'm gonna turn towards you again, into a sitting splits. Not too wide. If you go wide, you'll actually lose the center. It'll come up. So one way to measure is just wide enough so you can handle. As you go forward, think that you use your feet to move your tail back so you land on your perineum. You can fold here, or you can walk it over to one leg where your knee fits your armpit. Your head folds down inside of your leg. Or you can find the currency that moves through in a very particular way, so that this heel moves me away towards this side. Whatever side you're moving towards, the knee bends. So this heel, that way, moves me into this fold and you bend this knee. This heel, that way, towards the right, moves me into the fold to the left. And then you can always just stay on one side. My knee bends because I'm moving towards the right. My heel moves into my hand. This heel moves towards the right and it'll spin me around towards the left. So that this is the inhale, the seed. This is the exhale. You really want to drop your head so that you start to come through the fold rather than over the fold. You're coming through the portal of your first floor. And you can go to the other side. Again, whatever way you're moving towards, the knee bends. So that as this heel moves me towards the right, so my left heel is moving me towards the right, I bend this knee and I fold into the hip. If your foot flops out, you have lost the integrity of this joint. So you want to keep your foot straight up or even a little in so that it starts to move out, and you'll stay safe in this joint by finding the center rather than everything going to one side. Like only sitting on one side of the couch, that's the side that's gonna pull or squish. So here's an inhale, drop your head, drop your head. Here's an exhale. Into the fold. Nice, and then after both sides, you can come up. Remove your props. I'm gonna move into a fold, into a plow. So it's nice to have either a rolled up blanket or a block. When you roll into your plow, your heels go behind you. This is a rounded version of plow, so you're not using your core or muscular grip to hold yourself together. We're not holding the pose, we're using geometry, knees in the armpits. So eventually you want to become a sphere. I have a sandbag back here, so I'm going to put it on my feet. If your feet don't touch the ground, you can always put pillows, a blanket, or even put your feet on your couch. And then you give yourself a breath count here. You could start to play with your breath like a rap, inhaling up the back, exhaling over the top of my head, down the belly to the tail. So inhale, fire rises up the back. Exhale, water down the front. You'll give yourself a breath count here. And then you try and stay really, really round so you come to your fold. If your head doesn't touch something, put a block under it. If your knees lock out, you'll move out of the joint of your hips and you'll fold from somewhere else, probably your back. So think that your knees fit your armpits and then your heels go forward and your butt goes back. But when your knees fit your armpits, I don't even care if you really have to help them fit. Over time, your body will know that that's where you wanted it to go, and it'll put a soothing angle of your kidneys. It'll start to put a wave back here instead of no wave here, no wave here, no wave here. You are made of waves. Wave behind your feet, the arch behind your knees, your low back, your neck. And then you'll move yourself into another plow. So this is like rolling out the back to a fold, and then to a final plow. Again, this is the ideal. And then straight from my plow, if I had my block where it was, I put myself in a bridge. So if you have a block, you can put them under your sacrum. I'm grabbing two and I'm putting them side by side so that this flat surface, my flat sacrum, the end of your spine is a flat bone, gets to sit on here and it makes a lot of contact. If you like to strap in your legs, or a third block, you put a block between your legs and strap them together so that your knees are a trajectory forward with your heels starting underneath them. And then eventually you want your hips to get higher and higher, but that can happen over time. So you don't have to have your blocks this high, they can be lower, but you want to know that the higher your hips go, the more pressure gets to drain off of them. It's like that pressure is the kidneys, the waters, and they hold too much, or they're too rigid, too dry. So to get your hips up this high is like flipping your house upside down. It's like draining the water. So you can see my knees are still higher than my hips. So ideally, eventually you want the knees lower. But that can happen in time. You're playing with the idea, and then you're mapping it embodied through your body. And then the key is really to use the breath. Because if you can get your breath up to your hips, down to your diaphragm, your body will start to learn that this place is a safe place to be. Especially when your geometry gets more and more detailed, more and more refined. Because geometry is a great thing to trust. A hemisphere is a backbend that is dispersed through the whole thing. So you want your backbend dispersed. You don't want it crunched. You don't want it acute. You don't want it obtuse. Because then one piece is going to take too much and one is going to take too little. Another option is to take your feet, bend your knees, and come to the top of the foot. So that again, the knees start to lower down near the hips. You can also grab opposite elbows, but you want to think the main joint that's opening is right here. So you're unfolding what we folded quite a bit in the beginning of the sequence. Give yourself a breath count. You can wrap yourself here, up and down. You can also go east to west. Left armpit is sunrise. You're inhaling to high noon above you. Right armpit is sunset. You're exhaling behind you, like midnight straight into the floor. And then you can inhale around the front and exhale around the back. So you can wrap yourself this way. You can wrap yourself this way. You can also do diagonally. And then you can either walk your feet back to where they were, sit your butt on the floor, or you can tip your blocks forward and your knees will come to the floor. Sometimes your head is floating. Eventually your head will be down. You can find your breath. A back bend should really affect the intestines. They're the root of the lungs. So a true back bend goes all the way down to the intestines. And then you can either sit up or roll back. And then you've landed in a seat. This is a nice place to move your pelvis around, forward and back, around towards the right, around towards the left. So asana eventually leads you to a seat for breath work, or breath work leads to meditation. So the asana becomes the origami. You're making yourself into a sphere or like an origami cup that holds something. Breath work is to fill that cup with prana, life force, breath, imagination, and then meditation is where you take the little sip. So that is a little demo of the home practice series. Thanks for watching.